What's going on, guys? My name is Austin. This is the Bodies in Business podcast. And today we're going to talk about two very spicy topics. We're going to talk about gut health and fiber. And when I mean spicy, I mean probably not the most exciting for most people, but for me, I'm going to jump into these things and I'm going to make you want to listen to this thing over and over again, because when you find out how much fiber is going to impact your life, you're just going to want to go out, get a big salad. You're going to get, an apple and maybe a handful of almonds. You're going to be like, man, I am living my best life. So let's jump right into it. We're going to talk about a bunch of different topics, but I'm going to tell you up front so you can maybe jump to whichever section you want to jump to in this video. We're going to talk about what's the recommended amount of fiber for the average American adult. What's the average intake for the average adult for fiber right now? Why is it in your best interest to eat an adequate amount of fiber on a consistent basis? Why don't we get enough fiber? What are the best practices we should be doing to maintain good gut health? What are MACs, not Big Macs, just regular MACs, M-A-C, I'm going to get into that. And what does a day of actually getting enough fiber look like? So those are the different sections. I'm going to, timestamp them so you can jump to whichever section you want to hear. But I felt like this was the best battle rhythm to go into, because this is going to give you a little bit of why, and then why, so what, now what kind of thing. Okay. So what's the recommended amount of fiber for the average American adult? Okay. According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, most adults should aim for roughly 14 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories consumed. This generally translates to about 25 to 38 grams per day, though exact recommendations vary by age and sex. Okay, so I really love how this breaks it down into 1,000 calories equals 14 grams of fiber. So if you eat 2,500 calories in a day, that's roughly 35 grams of fiber. So think about it that way. It's kind of nice because you can break your day up into the different meals that you have and how much fiber you want to get out of each meal. Usually you're going to have 3 meals a day. Some people have 2, some people have 1, but you want to get enough fiber in those meals. So that's a good recommendation. So if you calculate how many calories you eat in a day, then 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories is a good rule of thumb. What is the average intake for the average American adult right now? The average American adult consumes only about 15 to 16 grams of dietary fiber per day, which is not a lot. So if that were the case, if we said people would be eating only basically 1,000 calories a day, and we know people are eating way more than that. So people are really eating half the amount of fiber that they should be eating in one day, the average adult. All right. So just think about that. As a country, we are eating half the amount of fiber that we should be. And there's reasons why fiber is super healthy for us, why we need to add more fiber into our diet. So now moving on. Why is it in our best interest to eat an adequate amount of fiber on a consistent basis? Okay. This is the question I ask myself, and it comes back to gut health first. All right. Gut benefits. Fiber is one of the most important nutrients for gut health because many beneficial gut bacteria use it as food. And that's prebiotics. All right. Can't talk all the time. But prebiotics really come from fruits, vegetables, and other soluble fiber. And we're going to get into different types of fiber that you should be eating down the road. But I wanted you to know that the gut really benefits from an adequate amount of fiber. All right. And if I'm boring you, I'm sorry. Jump to what you should be eating and just get out of here if you need to. But this stuff is super important to understand, because the reason we don't eat enough fiber is because honestly, I don't think people realize how important it is, but also I don't think people understand how much they should be eating. Okay. So we have to know how much we should be eating, what we're eating right now, and then why it's important that we eat enough fiber so that we can go out there and be like, all right, I need to get my fiber in there. I can't play around like this anymore. All right. So what are the health benefits of eating an adequate amount of fiber on a consistent basis? Well, soluble fiber helps lower cholesterol levels, reduce the risk of heart disease, and regulate blood sugar levels. Soluble fiber is found in black beans, lima beans, Brussels sprouts, avocado, sweet potato, broccoli, turnips, and pears, and a bunch of other stuff as well, but those are just a few. Insoluble fiber passes through the digestive system relatively intact, adding to bulk in stools. So it makes you poop a little easier. It is the form of fiber that prevents constipation and regulates bowel movements. Just said that. removing waste from the body in a timely manner. Insoluble fibers are found in whole wheat flour, wheat bran, cauliflower, green beans, and potatoes, and a bunch of other stuff, but those are just a few. In general, it's better to get your fiber from whole foods rather than fiber supplements. Fiber supplements such as Metamucil, Citrucil, and Benefiber don't provide the different types of fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other beneficial nutrients that whole foods do. Here's a quote from Dr. Lane Norton. He did a podcast with Andrew Huberman, and I really love this quote. And this kind of hits to why you should be eating an adequate amount of fiber. A recent really large meta-analysis of over 1 million subjects showed that for every 10-gram increase in fiber, there was a 10% reduction in risk of mortality, which is incredible because you want to decrease the risk of your mortality. So if you just increase your fiber intake by 10% or by 10 grams, you're decreasing your risk of mortality by 10% each time you do that. So right now, people who aren't even eating enough fiber can just decrease their risk of mortality just by eating more fiber. All right. It's pretty cool. All right, and this is the last one when it comes to the health benefits of fiber. Harvard published this in 2019. It says a new analysis of almost 250 studies confirmed on a large scale that eating lots of fiber from vegetables, fruits, and whole grains can decrease your risk of dying from heart disease and cancer. Those who ate the most fiber reduced their risk of dying from cardiac disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and or colon cancer by 16% to 24%. Compared to people who ate very little fiber. The study also concluded that more fiber is better. For every additional 8 grams of dietary fiber a person consumed, the risk for each of the diseases fell another 5% to 27%. Risk reductions were greatest when daily intake of dietary fiber was between 25 and 29 grams. Okay? So that's just all to say, I know we're going to get into why people aren't, upping their fiber, but that's such good information to understand why you should just up your fiber intake and be more cognizant of how much fiber you're getting in each day. Okay. So this is the big question. Why don't we get enough fiber already? Why is it the case that we're only getting 15 to 16 grams of fiber? Well, there are many reasons, but the first reason I want to say is we choose to eat other foods and we prioritize schedules, convenience, and taste before our health a lot of times in today's world, right? We have so many things going on. And so we prioritize eating other foods that have less fiber in them as opposed to eating foods that have fiber in them because we think we need to do things to keep our lives going at a certain pace. And you will find out that eating food that has fiber in it takes a little more effort, takes a little more time to prep, doesn't taste as good. And, that's something that we need to understand is the first thing we need to understand is we are choosing from the baseline standpoint to eat foods that don't have enough fiber in them. All right. So we have to make the choice first to say, you know what, I'm going to eat foods that have more fiber in them. All right. So the next thing, why don't we get enough fiber? Roughly 55% of the average American's total caloric intake is highly processed or ultra-processed foods. So what are highly processed or ultra-processed foods? Well, they are industrial formulations containing ingredients like high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, and artificial additives. I'll give you some examples. Sandwiches and burgers from fast food joints and prepackaged sandwiches. Sweet bakery products, cakes, cookies, pies, donuts. And this isn't like the homemade stuff that your mom or grandma makes or your dad or, chef makes. It's like the stuff that's packaged in, gas stations or grocery stores and stuff like that. All right. So there's always a difference in, a high quality burger that you literally took a steak and grounded it down into ground beef or getting a patty from a fast food restaurant. Okay. There's always differences. Sweetened beverages like sodas, fruit flavored drinks, energy drinks, heavily sweetened coffees, savory snacks, ready to make meals that are frozen, processed meats, refined grains. All of these highly processed foods don't have a lot of fiber in them. Most of the fiber is taken out of these foods because 1, it makes it taste better, and 2, it keeps the shelf life a little longer. All right. And there's a bunch of reasons why that is, but I won't go into that today. But a lot of the food that lasts a long time on shelves or in packages, most of the fiber has been taken out of those foods. Okay. And we won't get into the whole reason why and stuff like that, but just realize that if you're eating foods that come in a package and aren't like fresh whole foods, a lot of the fiber has probably been taken out. You need to check and see. Okay. Highly processed foods strip away fiber through industrial steps like milling and refining, which physically remove the fiber-rich outer layer of plants. All right. So that's just something to understand is, like I said, roughly 55% of an average American's total caloric intake is highly processed or ultra processed foods. That's one of the reasons why our guts are hurting. Okay. That's one of the reasons why our gut health is not great. And we want to improve our gut health. So we need to add more fiber into our diet. All right. What's a reason? So now we're going back to that same question. Why don't we get enough fiber? Well, our schedules. We are so busy. We have a million things going on, and whole foods definitely take longer to cook than just picking something up at the store that's already prepackaged and you can eat right away. All right. And most people aren't millionaires and can't go to a Whole Foods hot bar and get food all the time. That are whole foods, which I recommend, to be honest. If I'm on a long road trip or I need something quick, I'm going to go to a hot bar and get some whole foods. But I know that's not always, viable for a lot of people with big families or just in a really big rush. So schedules, that's one thing that keeps us from eating really, really good whole foods with a lot of fiber. Okay. Convenience. Convenience is something that we have become accustomed to, right? We're getting food delivered to us. There are fast food restaurants lining the streets and ready for us to go through the drive-through, pick up our food and get out of there. Convenience is a huge thing. And to be honest, those fast food restaurants aren't putting a ton of fiber in their food because it's not going to be as palatable. It's not going to taste as good. Now, I know that some fast food restaurants are really trying to focus on getting maybe more fiber and more protein in their meals, but that's just something you need to understand, that if you are optimizing for convenience and your schedule, fiber might take a back seat because you just aren't thinking about it. You're like, I need something fast. I need something that's going to fill me up and get me on the road again. Or, that's just the way it is. So one thing that you need to understand too is palatability. That's one of the reasons why we don't eat a lot of fiber is it's not eating an Oreo versus eating a piece of broccoli. Which one is probably going to taste better? Well, you don't have to guess. The Oreo is going to taste better than the broccoli, right? But the Oreo is filled with processed sugars and it doesn't have any fiber in it, whereas the piece of broccoli has fiber and has a lot of nutrients in it. Now, you have to actively tell yourself, you know what? That doesn't mean I can't have the Oreo. All right. That doesn't mean that you can't have desserts if you're eating enough fiber. You need to prioritize getting enough fiber into your diet so that you can eat those things and feel better about doing that, right? Whenever I try to eat enough fiber, I still like to treat myself with some dark chocolate almonds or some ice cream or cookies and stuff like that. But on a consistent basis, I'm getting enough fiber so that I don't feel really bad when I'm like, oh, man, I love eating my cookies, but I'm terrible eating fiber. No, you can do both. You can do both. You can eat the broccoli and then have a little Oreo. No one's saying you can't do that. All right. Just making sure you need to get that fiber in before you go for the sweet treats. Okay. All right. Cost and shelf life. Here's another one. It costs on a week to week basis. It's going to cost probably less money to buy whole foods and then cook them at home than it is to buy food at fast food restaurants and then also packaged foods. And, I haven't done this, side by side myself, but food is getting very, very expensive. And so being able to cook at home, whole foods, makes eating, highly, vitamin rich, good food. I'm kind of rambling at this point. Sorry. Makes the cost of the food, rice and beans, broccoli, whole foods, meats, that type of thing. It doesn't cost as much as getting food from a fast food restaurant because then you're paying for convenience. All right. But what I will say is packaged food usually lasts longer than food that's whole foods. You got to keep it in the fridge or it's going to go bad, and it usually goes bad in about a week or 2 weeks. Whereas packaged food can last a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, depending on what you get. So I get it. Some people are like, you know what? I get a lot of canned goods because I want to be able to, my food to last. I get canned beans. That doesn't mean I don't eat regular whole foods, but those canned beans do last a long time. So you can do both again. You don't have to just pick one or the other. All right. So now moving on to the next topic. What are the 3 best practices that you can implement that are going to maintain good gut health? Okay. The three practices are exercise, avoiding excess calories, and then consuming dietary fiber. We've talked about the fiber. We're beating a dead horse with that one, but exercise. People who engage in regular aerobic exercise often have higher levels of bacteria associated with short chain fatty acid production. These short chain fatty acids help nourish the cell's lining in the colon and strengthen the gut barrier. All right. So those are good. That's why you want to exercise. Keep the gut nice and strong and healthy. Avoiding excess calories. Avoiding excess calories prevents excessive growth of less beneficial microbes that may thrive on overconsumption of energy-dense foods. Okay. And then we've talked about fiber. It acts as a prebiotic, feeding beneficial microbes in your gut. It increases the production of short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate. And then it strengthens the intestinal barrier. All right. This and the next topic we're going to talk about is probably not the most exciting, but it's also something that I learned recently, which I think is super helpful. What are microbiota accessible carbohydrates? All right. Microbiota accessible, and they're called MACs, not Big Macs. We'll call these small MACs. All right. What are the small MACs? Small MACs are microbiota accessible carbohydrates. Sorry, I had to take a breath. They're carbohydrates that your body cannot digest, but your gut microbes can, which is kind of cool. Your gut microbes like to digest these MACs, these small MACs. They're small MACs for your microbes, baby. Think of them as food for your gut bacteria. When small MACs reach the large intestine, beneficial microbes ferment them and produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate. Butyrate's like one of the most important ones. That's what I've learned. And these short-chain fatty acids help with nourishing the cells, the lining in the colon, strengthening the gut barrier, support immune function, reduce inflammation, and influence metabolism and appetite regulation. Why are small MACs so important? Well, when gut microbes don't get enough small MACs, beneficial bacteria may decline, microbial diversity can decrease, production of short-chain fatty acids falls, and some microbes may start consuming the mucus layer that protects the gut lining. All this makes sense because our gut health is not the greatest these days for the average American, and all those things happen when you don't get enough fiber in your diet. Okay? Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, what does this look like? I wanted to give you like an actual game plan on what a day in the life of eating a good fibrous diet looks like. Okay. Day one, here we go. We're going to do 2 days. Day one, you eat a 1 cup of cooked oatmeal with a tablespoon of chia seeds and a half a cup of blueberries. You can add different stuff to that if you want to. Maybe add some honey, maybe some cinnamon, stuff like that. But if you add those 3 things, oatmeal, chia seeds, blueberries, that's 11 grams of fiber. Okay, to start your day. You can eat more than that, but that's 11 grams of fiber to start your day. Then for lunch, if you have a big salad, half a cup of black beans, and 1 whole grain bread, that is 14 grams of fiber. So just there, breakfast and lunch, we're up to 25 grams of fiber, guys. That's awesome. Now, if you want to have a snack in the afternoon, 1 medium apple and a handful of almonds, that's another 7 grams of fiber. All right, so now we're up to 32 grams for dinner. You can have a 6-ounce ribeye, roasted broccoli, and then a baked potato. I mean, you can put, stuff that you want on the baked potato, but just make sure you eat the whole potato. That's 9 grams of fiber. There's not any fiber in the ribeye, but the other 2 things, there's fiber. If you just did that day, if you go back doing that day, I don't know why I hold 5 up, but if you go back and eat that daily meal plan, that's 41 grams of fiber, which is awesome. All right. And if you take away the snack and just eat the 3 meals, that's 34 grams of fiber there. 34 without the snack. Okay. All right. One small important note to know if you're going to just jump into a high fibrous diet is, if you're currently eating much less fiber, many adults only consume 10 to 15 grams a day, increasing it gradually over a few weeks and drinking adequate fluids is recommended. A sudden jump to 35 or 40 grams can cause bloating, gas, and digestive discomfort while your gut microbiota adapts. So maybe do step functions. Maybe go 20, 25, 30, 35 of grams of fiber. Okay. You can do that each week. I know, people aren't focusing on it too much, but if you do that, it's really cool to see how you can implement some more fiber into your diet. All right. That's day one. Day two, I'm going to give you, we're going to do some avocado toast with 3 boiled eggs and an orange. Okay. If you do 1 slice of whole grain bread, 3 boiled eggs, and a half avocado and 1 orange. That's 11 grams of fiber. That sounds like an amazing meal. That sounds like an amazing breakfast to start your day. Lunch is a turkey and hummus wrap. Large whole wheat tortilla, 6 grams of fiber, 3 tablespoons of hummus, lettuce, cucumber, tomato, bell peppers, turkey breast. All of that, 15 grams of fiber. Guys, we're up to 26 grams of fiber, just those 2 meals, just those 2. All right. Then your snack, we'll do some trail mix. We got pistachios, we got pumpkin seeds, and we got dried figs. If you like dried figs, I'm not a huge dried figs fan, but you know what? I do like them. It's good on a charcuterie board. All right, that's 7 grams, okay? And then for dinner, we do baked salmon. We do 1 medium sweet potato with the skin, and then 1 cup of roasted Brussels sprouts. All right, that's ending with your dinner at 8 grams. Now, one thing I will say is I try not to do a ton of fiber at night for my dinner because I don't want to have any big problems in the middle of the night or when I wake up. Now I do wake up every morning and I, go do my business. But if you eat a ton of fiber at night, it could cause some digestive issues when you're trying to sleep and you don't want that. So that whole day is 41 grams of fiber. And if you take out the snack, we're at 34 grams of fiber. Guys, telling you, it's easier than you think. You gotta be mindful of it. You gotta be a little mindful of it, and you gotta know fiber is doing my body and my brain, and it's all these good things. It's awesome. Okay. Last note. All right. We haven't even talked about gut health, fermented foods. And I wanted to end on that because fermented foods are also super beneficial. A Stanford nutrition professor, Dr. Christopher Gardner, did a presentation about a study that was completed with 18 people, and they ate as much fiber and as much fermented food as they could. They called it the Fee-Fi-Fo study, fermented and fiber-rich food. All right, Dr. Gardner's team ran the study comparing diets high in fiber versus diets high in fermented foods. All right, the results were surprising. The fermented food group saw a consistent massive increase in microbial diversity and a decrease in 20 different markers of inflammation. That's awesome. 2 servings a day in either kimchi, I can't think of the word. Why am I blanking? Fermented foods. I couldn't even think. But 2 servings, just do 2 servings a day of fermented foods. It's going to help your gut. All right. But really focus on small mac that are going to have small macs. And I want to go through a list of those really quick because it says excellent sources are vegetables, artichokes, asparagus, onions, garlic, leeks, shallots, chicory root, dandelion greens, that's a weird one, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, sweet potatoes, beets, and then legumes. We got lentils, black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, navy beans, split peas, edamame, fruits. We got something going on. What's going on? Fruits, apples with the skin, pears with the skin, bananas, especially slightly green, berries, oranges, kiwi fruit, pomegranates, figs, dates, and then whole grains. We got oats, barley, rye, whole wheat, brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, farro. And then the last thing, nuts and seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, pistachios, almonds, walnuts, and resistant starch sources. Or that's the last thing. So I just listed off a ton of them, guys, and I'm going to put some type of PDF that goes along with this so you can check it out. But the thing that I like about fiber is it fills me up, keeps me full throughout the day. And honestly, I feel like I'm doing a really good service to my body when my bowel movements are really easy and I'm not struggling to get those out. So I think that's a good indicator that I'm eating enough fiber, but that doesn't mean you're getting enough fiber if you're having good bowel movements. It's just a good indicator. So that's all I got, guys. I will say, I know that fiber is not the sexiest of, things to eat because there are so many things that taste a lot better. Cake with no fiber in it is amazing. Steak and all these, chicken protein, all these things are great, but fiber is almost like doing a workout. You don't really want to do it, but it's good for your health. And, if it's good for your health and you want to be around for a long time and you want to live a nice, healthy life, you're going to add fiber to your diet because that's just the way our bodies were made. Our bodies need fiber. And so you have to be able to plan these things out and figure out ways that you can implement fiber into your diet. Fibrous snacks, get your fiber early in the day so that you're starting off on the right foot. I love overnight oats. I love avocado toast. I love these things. So if you need any help or any, suggestions on, meal plans or something like that, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. But I try to put this stuff out there because I'm like, man, I'm glad I found out that fiber was such an unlock when it comes to health and healthy living. So I just know it takes a lot more effort to eat fibrous foods, because we can just go to the store and get something off the shelf that's in a package, or we know that fast food restaurants are really trying to make their food as palatable as possible, and they're taking out the fiber because they know that that's not going to make it as palatable. And palatable means tasty, essentially. But that's all I got, guys. Hopefully that helps. It's a long rant on fiber. We went 30 minutes, and I hope you found that helpful. I'm going to put some resources that you can go listen to. People that know way more than I do about fiber and gut health, you should listen to them. And that's all I got. I hope you guys like that. If you made it this far, I appreciate you, and get after it. Keep getting 1% better, as James Clear would say, every single day. And that's all I got. Get after it.